He was expelled for being poorer, so the principal thought. But what that arrogant administrator didn't know was that the homeless boy he just kicked to the curb was actually the son of the school's biggest donor, conducting a secret social experiment that would bring the entire faculty to its knees. We live in a world where your net worth often determines your worth as a human being, a painful reality that many of us have felt when judged by our appearance rather than our character. It hurts, doesn't it? Losing faith in the fairness of the world. Meet Hermann Floyd, a billionaire who feared his son was growing up in a bubble, and Teresa Meyer, a teacher clinging to her integrity in a corrupt system. This isn't just a school drama, it's a war between money and morality. In this video, you're going to witness a shocking reveal that will restore your belief in karma and justice. But be warned, the road to redemption is paved with cruelty, and before the triumph, there is a heart-touching struggle that will leave you breathless. The stakes. The boy's future, Teresa's career, and the soul of the institution itself are all on the line. As the principal pushes his cruelty to the breaking point, he unknowingly signs his own professional death warrant. If you believe that true character matters more than a bank account, smash that like button right now to take a stand. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story of unconditional kindness versus elitist judgment is about to prove that destiny always has the last laugh. Let's dive in. The morning sun usually brought warmth to the prestigious academy's courtyard, but today, a chilling shadow was cast by the principal. He stood there, a looming figure of authority, looking down his nose at the new transfer student whose clothes had seen better days. It wasn't just a dress code violation, it was a public display of power designed to make the poor student feel small. The silence in the yard was deafening, heavy with the weight of judgment, as every eye fixed on the boy who stood clutching his backpack like a shield against the verbal assault. It was a stark reminder that in this elite world, money often spoke louder than potential. Watching from the corridor, Teresa Meyer felt a knot tighten in her stomach, a visceral reaction to the cruelty unfolding before her. She had seen strict discipline before, but this was different. This was personal and unnecessary, a deliberate attempt to see the boy humiliated before his first class even began. She gripped her lesson planner, her knuckles turning white, fighting the urge to rush out and intervene immediately. It was a heart-touching and wrenching scene that made you question the true values of an institution that prided itself on excellence yet seemed to lack basic empathy for those without a trust fund. The principal's voice boomed across the pavement, dripping with disdain as he pointed a manicured finger at the boy's scuffed sneakers. He wasn't just critiquing attire, he was attacking the boy's dignity, seemingly offended by the very presence of someone who didn't fit the billionaire mold. "We have standards here," he sneered, his words cutting deeper than any knife, while the social experiment of blending in was rapidly turning into a nightmare for the child. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can a grown man derive such twisted satisfaction from belittling a child in front of his peers? The students whispered, some snickering, others looking away in discomfort, caught in the toxic orbit of the principal's massive ego. It's a moment that defines the atmosphere of the entire school, a culture of fear rather than learning. If you've ever felt the sting of being singled out for something you couldn't control, you know exactly how that boy felt in that agonizing minute. It takes a lot of strength to stand still when every fiber of your being wants to run, and that quiet resilience is often the first sign of a true character being forged in fire. Yet, the boy didn't cry, nor did he talk back, maintaining a stoic expression that seemed to infuriate the administrator even more. He simply adjusted his glasses, his eyes holding a depth that suggested he was observing far more than he was revealing. Teresa Meyer noticed this subtle defiance, a spark of destiny or perhaps just stubborn pride, and her heart went out to him. She knew that in a place dominated by the rich man mindset, surviving the first day was a victory in itself, though the karma for such cruelty was surely being written somewhere in the stars. The air grew thicker as the principal laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the brick walls, mocking the boy's silence as submission. He seemed to relish the audience, performing his tyranny like a twisted play where he was the king and everyone else, mere peasants. It's terrifying how power can blind someone to their own inhumanity, isn't it? But little did he know, he wasn't just breaking a student's spirit, he was setting the stage for his own downfall, fueling a fire that would eventually consume his arrogance. With a final dismissive wave, the principal ordered the boy to wait by the gate until his guardian could be instructed on proper protocol. The air was thick with tension as the students dispersed, leaving the boy isolated once again. But as the sleek cars of wealthy parents began to pull away, a rusted, sputtering old sedan turned the corner, coughing smoke as it approached the pristine gates. The driver, looking weary and worn, was about to step into the lion's den, unaware that the real test was just beginning. The rusted sedan groaned as it rolled to a stop, a stark contrast to the parade of limousines and luxury SUVs that dominated the drop-off zone. Behind the wheel sat Hermann Floyd, but you wouldn't recognize the billionaire tech mogul in this getup. Dressed in a stained mechanic's jumpsuit, with grease smudged artfully on his cheek and his hair unkempt, he looked every bit the struggling father he was pretending to be. This was the core of his secret identity, a necessary disguise to ensure his son wasn't just another pampered heir, but a person of substance. He stepped out of the car, instantly feeling the heavy, judgmental gazes of the other parents burning into his back. It's amazing how quickly people categorize you based on what you drive, isn't it? Hermann caught the eye of a woman in a designer dress who immediately pulled her child closer, as if poverty were a contagious disease.
It stung. Even though he knew the truth of his bank account, reminded him of the cold reality that this social experiment was designed to expose. He wasn't just testing the school, he was testing the soul of the community his son would be part of. Walking around to the passenger side, he opened the door for his son, offering a warm, encouraging smile that defied the hostile environment. "Remember who you are," he whispered, a mantra they had agreed upon before starting this undercover mission. The boy nodded, grabbing his backpack, his earlier humiliation hidden behind a mask of determination. Seeing his son so brave in the face of adversity was a heart-touching moment for Hermann, reaffirming that this drastic measure was necessary to raise a good man, not just a rich man. As they walked toward the entrance, the security guard stepped forward, hand on his holster, blocking their path with a skepticism reserved for the unwanted. "Deliveries are in the back." The guard grunted, not even bothering to make eye contact. Hermann paused, swallowing his pride, and politely explained that he was dropping off a student. The dismissal was casual, almost automatic, a symptom of a system that equated value with appearance. Be honest, would you have judged him by his car or by the care he showed his son? The encounter at the gate was brief but telling, a microcosm of the class warfare silently raging within the school walls. Hermann Floyd tipped an imaginary hat to the guard, playing the part of the subservient, working-class dad to perfection. It takes a massive amount of self-control to let someone treat you like dirt when you could buy the entire building they're standing in. But justice requires patience, and Hermann was playing the long game, gathering evidence of the rot at the core of the administration. He watched his son walk into the building, a lone figure against the imposing architecture, and felt a pang of worry mixed with pride. This wasn't just about education, it was about survival of the spirit. He knew the principal would be waiting, likely armed with more insults and bureaucratic hurdles designed to force them out. But Hermann also knew something they did in Destiny has a funny way of favoring the bold, and the trap was already set. Climbing back into his beat-up car, the engine sputtered loudly, drawing a few more sneers from the bystanders. As he drove away, checking his rear-view mirror, he saw Teresa Meyer watching from a window with a look of concern rather than disgust. It was a small detail, but in a sea of arrogance, it stood out like a lighthouse. Little did he know, that singular gaze would become the pivot point for everything that was about to happen. The lunchroom was a chaotic symphony of cliques and status symbols, where seating arrangements were dictated by family net worth rather than friendship. The poor student, Hermann's son, sat alone at the very edge of a long table, his tray empty because his father had supposedly forgotten to load his lunch account. The hunger gnawing at his stomach was nothing compared to the isolation gnawing at his heart. It was a classic scene of school drama, cruel and unforgiving, as other students flaunted gourmet meals delivered by private caterers. Teresa Meyer, monitoring the cafeteria, felt that familiar burn of injustice rising in her chest again. She couldn't stand by and watch a child go hungry, regardless of the unwritten rules that discouraged staff from coddling the scholarship cases. In a moment of unconditional kindness, She grabbed her own packed lunch, a simple sandwich, and an apple, and began walking toward him. The room seemed to quiet down as she moved, the social hierarchy disrupted by a simple act of humanity. When she placed the sandwich in front of him, the boy looked up, his eyes wide with surprise and suspicion. He was used to the rich man mentality of strings attached, but in Teresa's eyes, he saw only genuine concern. "Eat," she said softly, offering a smile that felt like a warm blanket in a blizzard. It was a heart-touching gesture that transcended the strict boundaries of teacher and student, connecting them on a purely human level. Hit the like button if you believe one act of kindness can change a person's entire day. The murmur started almost immediately, a ripple of gossip spreading from table to table. "Why is she helping the charity case?" One student whispered loud enough to be heard. Teresa ignored them, pulling up a chair to sit opposite the boy for a moment, effectively shielding him with her presence. She asked him about his favorite books, ignoring his clothes and his background, treating him with a dignity the principal had stolen earlier. This was true character in action, ignoring the mob to do what is right. For the boy, this wasn't just a sandwich, it was a lifeline, a signal that he wasn't invisible. He took a hesitant bite, and then another, the tension in his shoulders finally beginning to relax. In that brief exchange, a bond was formed, a silent alliance against the cold machinery of the school. Teresa didn't know she was feeding the heir to a fortune. She just saw a child who needed a friend. That is the beauty of destiny. It often hides its greatest rewards inside the humblest packages. However, not everyone viewed this act of compassion as a positive thing. From the doorway, the principal watched with narrowed eyes, his face twisting into a scowl of disapproval. To him, Teresa's kindness was a weakness, a crack in the armor of exclusivity he had worked so hard to build. He scribbled something in his notepad, a dark promise of retribution. Judgment was coming, not for the bullies, but for the one person trying to stop them. As the bell rang and the students filed out, Teresa gave the boy a reassuring nod, unaware that she had just painted a target on her own back. She gathered the empty wrapper, feeling a sense of fulfillment she hadn't felt in years. But as she turned to leave the cafeteria, a student messenger approached her with a summons slip. The principal wanted to see her immediately. The warmth of the moment evaporated, replaced by the cold dread of the conflict to come. The principal's office was a shrine to his own ego, filled with awards, mahogany furniture, and the lingering scent of expensive cologne. Teresa Meyer stood before his massive desk, feeling small but resolute. The principal didn't ask her to sit instead. He shuffled papers, letting the silence stretch out a classic power move designed to intimidate. When he finally looked up, his eyes were cold, devoid of any empathy. "Ms. Meyer," he began, his voice smooth but laced with venom, "we need to discuss your questionable choices." He leaned back, steepling his fingers. "This academy is a sanctuary for the elite. We prepare leaders, titans of industry. We do not run a soup kitchen." His words were a direct attack on her earlier act of kindness, framing her compassion as a professional failure. He explicitly warned her that associating with charity cases like the poor student would taint her reputation, and by extension, the school's brand. It was the ugly face of the rich man philosophy that poverty was a character flaw to be avoided, not a circumstance to be helped. Teresa felt a flush of anger, but kept her voice steady. "I was just ensuring a student didn't starve. Sir, is that against policy?" Her defiance was subtle, but it hit the mark. The principal's eyes narrowed. He hated being challenged, especially by someone he considered a subordinate. Perception is reality. "Teresa," he snapped, dropping the formalities. "If you are seen coddling the weak, you look weak. And I don't hire weak teachers." The threat of being expelled from her own job hung heavily in the air. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the manicured grounds. "You have a bright future here," he said, his tone softening into a manipulative purr. "Don't throw it away for a nobody. These people, they drain you. They're not like us." It was a test of her true character, a bribe of stability offered in exchange for her soul. What would you do in this situation? Speak up or stay silent to save your job? Let me know in the comments. Teresa swallowed hard, realizing the depth of corruption she was dealing with. This wasn't just about a sandwich anymore. It was about the fundamental right to exist within these walls. She nodded stiffly, choosing to retreat and fight another day rather than be fired on the spot. "I understand your position," she lied, her fingers crossed metaphorically behind her back. But inside, her resolve only hardened. She knew that justice had left this building a long time ago. The principal dismissed her with a wave, satisfied that he had crushed her spirit. "Good. Let's not have this conversation again." As Teresa walked to the door, she felt a wave of nausea. The social experiment Hermann was conducting was about to get a lot more complicated because now the faculty was being forced to choose sides. The line between keeping your job and keeping your humanity had never been thinner. She stepped out of the office, taking a deep breath of fresh air, shaking off the toxicity of the meeting. She knew she was being watched now, her every move scrutinized. But instead of fear, she felt a dangerous spark of rebellion. If helping a child was a crime in this school, then she would prepare to be the world's greatest criminal. Destiny was pushing her toward a cliff, and she was ready to jump if it meant saving that boy. A few days later, Hermann Floyd returned to the school, still clad in his mechanic's disguise, to discuss his son's academic progress. He approached the front desk, holding a crumpled cap in his grease-stained hands. The receptionist, barely looking up from her glossy magazine, let out an audible sigh of annoyance. "Deliveries in the back." She repeated the mantra, dismissing him before he could even speak. It was a painful reminder of how invisible the working class becomes in the eyes of the elite, a key data point in his social experiment. "I'm here to see the principal regarding my son," Hermann said, his voice polite but firm. The receptionist finally looked up, her lip curling in a sneer as she took in his appearance. She picked up the phone with 2 fingers, as if it were contaminated. "Sir, the principal is extremely busy with important donors. You can't just waltz in here." The disdain was palpable, a thick wall of prejudice that blocked any chance of civil conversation. It's shocking how manners disappear when people think you have nothing to offer them. After 20 minutes of waiting in the lobby while well-dressed parents were ushered right in, Hermann was finally allowed to enter the administration wing. He wasn't taken to the main office, but to a cramped, windowless storage room where the vice principal met him. "We have concerns about your sons." "Fit," the administrator said, not even offering Hermann a chair. "He doesn't seem to have the resources to keep up." The implication was clear. Being a poor student was a disruption they wanted to eliminate. Hermann played the part of the desperate father perfectly. "He's a smart boy. He just needs a chance." "I'm working double shifts," he pleaded, injecting a tremor into his voice. The vice principal checked his watch, clearly bored by the sob story. "Effort is nice, Mr. Floyd, but tuition is just the beginning. The trips, the galas. It's a lifestyle. Perhaps a public school would be more. Your speed." The cruelty of suggestion was masked as advice, but the intent was to see them humiliated and gone. Deep down, the billionaire Hermann was seething. He could buy this man's career with a loose change in his pocket. But he held back, knowing that the shocking reveal would be sweeter if he let them dig their grave a little deeper. He needed to see how far they would go. "I just want what's best for him," Hermann murmured, lowering his head in mock defeat. "We all do." The administrator lied smoothly, checking his phone. As Hermann left the office, he felt the heavy weight of judgment following him down the hall. He passed a trophy case, filled with golden cups that seemed to mock his current status. The system was rigged, built to exclude, and he was experiencing it firsthand. It creates a fire in your belly, doesn't it? Seeing injustice so up close. He knew that soon the tables would turn, but for now, he had to endure the sting of being treated like a second-class citizen. Walking back to the parking lot, he saw his son sitting on a bench, looking isolated. But then, he saw Teresa Meyer stop by the bench, sharing a laugh with the boy. It was the only spot of color in a gray world. Hermann paused, watching them. The administration had failed the test miserably, but this teacher, she was passing with flying colors. The karma train was leaving the station, and it was going to run right over the prejudice of this place. On his way out, Hermann's car, the rusted sedan, refused to start. The engine clicked and died, leaving him stranded in the middle of the pickup lane, blocking a line of luxury SUVs. Horns blared instantly, a cacophony of entitlement and rage. Parents leaned out their windows, shouting insults at the junk heap blocking their path. It was a scene of utter humiliation, engineered by fate to test character of everyone present. Hermann stood by the open hood, looking helpless, wiping his brow with a dirty rag. Suddenly, Teresa Meyer appeared at his side. She didn't look annoyed, she looked concerned. "Trouble with a starter?" she asked, her voice cutting through the noise of the angry horns. She didn't care about the grease or the angry parents. She saw a human being in distress. Ignoring the principal who was now watching from the steps, she rolled up her sleeves. "I don't know much about cars, but I can help you push it to the side, so you're safe." Together, they pushed the heavy vehicle out of the way. Hermann was struck by her strength, not just physical, but moral. She wasn't afraid of getting her hands dirty or being associated with the poor parent. Once the car was safe, she offered him a bottle of water from her bag. "Don't mind them," she said, gesturing to the angry line of cars. Patience isn't a subject we teach well here, unfortunately. Her wit and kindness were a breath of fresh air in the suffocating atmosphere of the school. Hermann took the water, looking deep into her eyes. "Thank you. You didn't have to help." Teresa shrugged, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "We're all just trying to get through the day, right? Besides, your son is a wonderful boy. He's brilliant. You're doing a great job." Hearing those words validated his entire social experiment. She wasn't respecting him because of his money she didn't know about. She was respecting him because she was a person of true character. They talked for a few minutes while waiting for the engine to cool down. Hermann asked her about her teaching philosophy, and she spoke with passion about potential and equality. Unaware she was pitching to a billionaire, she treated him as an equal, listening to his struggles with empathy rather than pity. It was a heart-touching interaction that solidified Hermann's opinion. Teresa was a diamond in a pile of coal. The principal eventually marched over, his face purple with rage. "Ms. Meyer, get back to your duties. And you," he sneered at Hermann, "get this eyesore off my campus before I call a tow truck." The contrast between Teresa's unconditional kindness and the principal's malice was jarring. Teresa looked like she wanted to argue, but Hermann gave her a subtle signal to stop. He didn't want her to lose her job. Yet, as Teresa walked away, looking back with an apologetic wave, Hermann finally got the car to start. As he drove off, a plan began to form in his mind. He had seen enough darkness to condemn the school, but he had found a light worth saving. The secret identity was safe for now, but the clock was ticking down to the moment of truth. Regret was coming to the principal, but for Teresa, destiny had something very different in store. The locker room was the perfect blind spot for cruelty. Without cameras or teachers, the bullies cornered Hermann's son. "Where's your butler?" One taunted, knocking the books out his hands. Another kicked his backpack across the floor, sending papers flying. "Maybe you should sell your kidney to buy new shoes," they laughed, their voices echoing off the metal lockers. It was the ugly, unfiltered side of the school drama, where the poor student was nothing more than a punching bag for the insecurities of the rich kids. The boy crouched to pick up his things, his face burning. He wanted to fight back, to scream that he could buy and sell their entire families, but he remembered his father's words about true character. He stayed silent, enduring the abuse with a dignity that confused his tormentors. But just as one of the bullies raised a hand to shove him, the door swung open. "That is enough." Teresa Meyer's voice rang out like a whip crack, freezing the room instantly. She didn't just stand in the doorway, she marched into the center of the circle, placing herself between the mob and the boy. "Is this what leadership looks like?" she demanded, making eye contact with the ringleader. Attacking someone because they're different? That's not power. That's cowardice. The room went silent. She wasn't shouting, she was speaking with the quiet, terrifying authority of justice. She helped the boy stand up, dusting off his shoulder with a gentle hand. Then, she turned to class, turning the moment into an impromptu lesson. "Money is a circumstance," she said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Kindness is a choice. You can inherit a fortune, but you have to earn respect. Right now, none of you are earning it." It was a powerful, heart-touching speech that cut through their entitlement. The bullies looked at their feet, ashamed for the first time. Teresa didn't send them to principal's office, knowing he would just dismiss it. Instead, she made them pick up every single piece of paper they had scattered. It was a small act of restitution, but it shifted the power dynamic in the room. She was teaching them that actions have consequences, a concept alien to many of them. However, outside the locker room, the principal had heard the commotion. He didn't see a teacher instilling values. He saw a liability creating friction with the children of major donors. He ground his teeth, deciding that Teresa's crusade for unconditional kindness had gone too far. She was disrupting the natural order of his kingdom. As the students dispersed, Teresa walked the boy to his next class. "You okay?" she asked softly. "I'm fine," he replied, looking at her with admiration. "You're really brave." Teresa smiled sadly. "So are you?" In that moment, she unknowingly sealed her fate. By protecting the undercover heir, she had accelerated the countdown to her own termination. But she walked with her head high, proving that integrity is something that cannot be bought or bullied. Hermann Floyd sat in his high-tech surveillance van a few blocks away, reviewing the audio recording his son had captured via a hidden device in his watch. He listened to the locker room incident, his fists clenching as he heard the bullies' taunts. But then he heard Teresa's voice cutting through the noise, defending his son with fierce determination. A slow smile spread across his face. In this cesspool of elitism, he had found the one person who remained incorruptible. She was the anomaly in his social experiment. He began to dig deeper into Teresa's file. He found that she had been passed over for promotion 3 times, likely because she refused to play the political games of the rich man administration. She stayed late to tutor struggling students for free and used her own meager salary to buy supplies for the classroom. She was a heartbeat of the school, yet she was treated like an expendable organ. Hermann realized that she wasn't just a good teacher. She was a hero fighting a losing battle against a corrupt system. "She's the only one," Hermann whispered to his assistant, who was monitoring the feeds. "The only one who doesn't see a dollar sign when she looks at a child." He felt a profound sense of gratitude, but also a growing urgency. He knew how systems like this worked. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. By standing up for his son, Teresa had painted a target on her back. He needed to act before the administration crushed her completely. The contrast was stark. Every other interaction he or his son had at the school was transactional or dismissive. The principal, the vice principal, the other teachers, they all bowed to the altar of wealth. But Teresa bowed only to the truth. This realization shifted Hermann's plan. It wasn't just about exposing the bad guys anymore. It was about elevating the good one. Destiny had brought them together for a reason. Later that evening, Hermann's son came home, looking less weary than usual. "Mrs. Meyer gave me a book today," he said, showing a worn copy of a classic novel. "She said characters are defined by their struggles, not their victories." Hermann took the book, seeing Teresa's handwriting on a sticky note. Inside, "Keep your head up. You are stronger than they know." It was a heart-touching message that resonated deeply with the billionaire. He looked out the window of his penthouse, the city lights twinkling below. He had billions of dollars, but Teresa had something money couldn't buy: a pure heart. He decided then and there that her kindness would not go unrewarded. The karma she deserved was coming, and it was going to be monumental. But first, the storm had to break. The next day, Hermann received a notification. The principal was calling an emergency disciplinary meeting regarding his son. The setup was beginning. Hermann checked his soon-out mechanic's jumpsuit, but his real armor, a tailored Italian masterpiece. Not yet, he told himself. He had to play the poor student's father one last time to catch them in the ultimate lie. The trap was set, and the principal was about to walk right into it. The atmosphere in the principal's office was suffocatingly tense. The principal sat behind his desk, a look of full regret plastered on his face. On the desk lay a gold watch, expensive, flashy, and allegedly stolen. "We found this in your son's locker," the principal stated, looking at Hermann still in his mechanic disguise with a predatory glint in his eyes. It was a classic frame-up, a desperate move to justify getting rid of the poor student who didn't fit the brand. Hermann looked at the watch, then at his son, who stood silently by his side, shaking his head. "I didn't take it," the boy said calmly. "I don't need it." The principal let out a dry, mocking laugh. Need compels people to do desperate things, he philosophized, enjoying his own cruelty. This is a zero-tolerance campus. Theft is an immediate expelled offense. The injustice of the situation was palpable. They weren't expelling him for theft, they were expelling him for poverty. "You have no proof he put it there," Hermann argued, channeling frustration of every helpless parent. Anyone could have planted it. The principal shrugged, dismissing the logic. "Possession is 9/10 of the law, Mr. Floyd, and frankly, a boy of his background is statistically more likely to offend." There it was. The mask had slipped completely. It was pure prejudice masquerading as policy. This was a shocking reveal of the principal's true nature. He pushed a paper across the desk, signed his voluntary withdrawal, "And we won't involve the police. It's the best offer you're going to get." It was blackmail. "Check your pulse right now. How angry does this make you feel?" Hermann stared at the paper. It was a physical manifestation of the corruption rotting the school from the inside out. He hesitated, making the principal believe he had won. "I want to hear from his teachers," Hermann said quietly. "Does anyone else believe he is a thief?" The principal smirked. "I am the only authority that matters here." He was drunk on power, unaware that every word was being recorded by the device in the boy's pocket. The arrogance was blinding him to the fact that he was being played. The principal leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Look, let's be real. He doesn't belong here. He's a mutt in a dog show. You're doing him a favor by taking him back to where he comes from." The slur hung in the air, toxic and heavy. Hermann memorized the words, filing them away as ammunition for the destruction that was to come. "I want sign," Hermann said, standing up. "My son is innocent." The principal's face hardened. "Then he is expelled effectively immediately. Security will escort you out." He reached for the phone, believing he had crushed the insect, but he had just poked a sleeping dragon. As Hermann and his son were marched out, the principal leaned back, satisfied. He thought the problem was solved. He had no idea he had just triggered the endgame. Just as security was about to push Hermann and his son out the front doors, Teresa Meyer came running down the hallway, breathless. "Wait!" she shouted, ignoring the startled looks of the staff. She had heard the news of the expulsion through the grapevine and knew she couldn't stay silent. She burst into the lobby, confronting the principal who had followed to watch the eviction. "He didn't steal that watch," she declared, her voice echoing off the marble floors. The principal stopped, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. "Ms. Meyer, this does not concern you. Step aside." But Teresa stood her ground, placing herself between the guards and the family. "It does concern me because I was with him." She lied or perhaps twisted the truth. "During the time the watch went missing, he was in my classroom asking for help with an assignment. He couldn't have done it." A hush fell over the lobby. Teresa was providing an alibi, knowing full well it would contradict the principal's narrative. She was effectively calling her boss a liar in front of the staff. It was a suicide mission for her career, but she looked at the boy innocent, accused, and helpless and knew she had no choice. This was vindicated action, a moment where true character outweighed self-preservation. Hermann watched her, stunned. He knew his son hadn't been with her at that exact moment. She was fabricating the alibi to save him. She was sacrificing her impeccable record, her job security, everything she had worked for just to stop an injustice. Respect. If you would do this for an innocent person, type respect in the comments. It was the ultimate act of unconditional kindness. "Are you calling me a liar, Ms. Meyer?" the principal hissed, stepping into her personal space. "I am telling the truth," she maintained, her chin high, though her hands were shaking. "If you expel him, you have to expel me too, because I am witnessing to his innocence." The stakes had never been higher. She was daring him to execute her. The principal looked around at the gathering crowd of students and staff. He couldn't back down now without looking weak. His eyes went cold, dead cold. "You are making a grave mistake, Teresa," he said, his voice low. "There is no coming back from this." Teresa didn't blink. I can live with losing a job. I can't live with losing my integrity. Hermann felt a lump in his throat. He had come to test the school, but he had found a martyr. He wanted to reveal himself right then and there to save her. But he knew the principal needed to commit the final act to be truly finished. He had to let Teresa fall, so she could rise higher than she ever imagined. It was a painful, heart-touching strategic decision. The principal didn't hesitate. With a sneer that revealed his utter lack of soul, he delivered the verdict. Then you are no longer an employee of this institution. You are fired for gross insubordination and lying to an administrator. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Teresa flinched as if physically struck, the color draining from her face. She was devastated, her career ending in seconds because she dared to stand up for the poor student. "Hand over your badge," the principal demanded, extending his hand. Teresa slowly unclipped her ID, her hands trembling. She loved teaching. It was her life. Losing it was like losing a limb. But she placed the badge in his hand, maintaining her dignity even as her world crumbled. "You're making a mistake," she whispered, not for herself, but for the school. "You're destroying the spirit of this place. Get out," the principal barked, pointing to the door. "Both of you. Trash belongs on the street." The cruelty was absolute. He wanted to see them humiliated, to make an example of them so no one else would dare challenge his authority. Teresa looked at Hermann and his son, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said to them, apologizing when she was the one who had been wronged. Hermann placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have nothing to be sorry for," he said, his voice dropping the trembling act he had used before. It was deeper, more resonant now. "You did the right thing." Teresa wiped her eyes, trying to be strong for the boy. "Come on," she said, ushering them out. "It'll walk you out." "He can't stop me from walking." They exited the school together. The disgraced teacher and the expelled student cast out of the kingdom of the rich man. Behind them, the principal laughed, joking with the security guards, feeling invincible. He thought he had won. He thought he had cleansed the school of the undesirable elements. He had no idea that he had just fired the future head of school. As they stood on the sidewalk, Teresa looked at the school building one last time, a look of regret and sadness on her face. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she admitted, her voice breaking. She was jobless, with a black mark on her record that would make getting hired elsewhere impossible. The system had chewed her up and spit her out. Hermann looked at her, then at his watch. The limousine was just around the corner. "Teresa," he said, using her first name with a familiarity that made her look at him in surprise. "Please wait here one moment. I have to make a call." The social experiment was over. It was time for justice. Hermann walked around the corner, leaving Teresa and his son confused on the sidewalk. Moments later, a sleek, black-stretched limousine, the kind usually reserved for royalty, pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, and Hermann Floyd sat there, no longer the hunch mechanic. He had wiped the grease from his face, donned his sunglasses, and exuded the aura of a billionaire. The transformation was the ultimate secret identity reveal. "Get in," he said to a stunned Teresa. She froze, looking from the rusted sedan to the limousine, her brain trying to process the impossibility of the image. "Mr. Floyd?" she stammered. "Trust me," he smiled, a genuine, powerful smile. "It's time to go back to school." Still in shock, she climbed in, sitting on the plush leather seats next to the boy, who was now grinning ear to ear. The limousine drove right up to the front entrance of the school, blocking the main gate. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Hermann stepped out, adjusting his suit jacket, looking every inch the titan of industry he was. Teresa followed, looking bewildered. The security guards, recognizing the car and the man from the magazines, scrambled to open the doors, their earlier hostility replaced by panicked servitude. They marched into the lobby, the sound of Hermann's expensive shoes clicking on the floor with military precision. The receptionist dropped her phone. The teachers froze in the hallways. The whisper spread like wildfire. That's Hermann Floyd, the owner of Floyd Tech, the biggest donor. The realization hit them like a tidal wave. The homeless man they had sneered at was the most powerful man in the city. Hermann didn't stop for them. He walked straight toward the principal's office, Teresa by his side. She was beginning to understand, her hand covering her mouth in shock. You were testing us," she whispered. Hermann nodded, and everyone failed, except you. The feeling of being vindicated began to wash over her, replacing the despair of minutes ago. He kicked the door to the principal's office open without knocking. The principal looked up, furious at the intrusion, but the blood drained from his face when he recognized Hermann Floyd. He didn't recognize him as a mechanic. At first, he recognized him as the celebrity billionaire. "Mr. Floyd," he stammered, standing up, smoothing his tie. "What an honor. We weren't expecting you." Hermann stared at him, taking off his sunglasses slowly. "Oh, I've been here for a while," he said coldly. The principal frowned, confused. Then Hermann gestured to his son. "You met my son. You expelled him about 10 minutes ago." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush a planet. The shocking reveal had landed, and the principal's world began to spin. The principal's face went through a spectrum of colors: pale white, then flushed red, then a sickly green. His brain scrambled to rewrite history. "Expelled? Your son?" He let out a nervous, high-pitched laugh. There must be a misunderstanding, a terrible administrative error. He rushed around the desk, extending a sweating hand that Hermann refused to shake. "If we had known it was your son, obviously protocols would have been different." "That," Hermann said, his voice like ice, "is exactly the problem." The principal ignored the jab. "In full damage control mode. We can fix this immediately. We'll reinstate him with honors. We'll name a wing after him. Please take a seat. Can I get you some water? Champagne?" The desperation was pathetic. The arrogant tyrant had instantly morphed into a groveling servant, proving his true character was nothing but opportunism. He turned to Teresa, who was standing quietly in the corner. "And Ms. Meyer, you're here. Wonderful." He acted as if he hadn't just fired her. "I was just testing your loyalty earlier. A stress test. You passed. You're rehired, of course, with a raise." He looked at Hermann for approval, sweating profusely. "See? One big happy family." The attempt to flatter his way out of karma was nauseating. Hermann walked over to the desk and picked up the stolen watch. "You framed a child," he said softly. "You destroyed a teacher's career. And now you think you can buy your way out with flattery?" The principal's smile faltered. "It was a mistake in judgment," he pleaded. "We have to maintain standards." "Your standards are rot," Hermann interrupted. "I didn't become a billionaire by tolerating liars." He looked at the principal with a mix of pity and disgust. The man was so used to money solving everything that he couldn't comprehend a situation where it didn't. He kept babbling about the school's prestige, about how much they valued the Floyd family, digging himself deeper with every word. "Please, Mr. Floyd, my career, my reputation." The principal was begging now. The rich man facade completely crumbled. He was just a small man in a big chair, terrified of the consequences of his own cruelty. It brings a sense of satisfaction, doesn't it? Watching a bully squirm when the power dynamic shifts. Hermann turned to Teresa. "Do you believe him?" he asked. Teresa looked at her former boss, seeing him for what he was. "No," she said simply. "He only cares because you're rich." It was the final nail in the coffin. The regret in the principal's eyes was real, but it was a regret for his actions only for getting caught. Hermann pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. The large screen in the principal's office flickered to life. It played the recording of the meeting from an hour ago. The principal's voice filled the room. "He's a mutt in a dog show. You're doing him a favor by taking him back to where he comes from." The audio was crystal clear. The principal gasped, backing away until he hit the wall. "This is who you are," Hermann announced, his voice booming not just in the office, but over the school's PA system, which it hacked into. The entire school, every classroom, every hallway was hearing the principal's hateful words. "You didn't expel a poor student," Hermann continued. "You expel my heir. The boy who will one day own the land the school is built on." The shocking reveal sent shockwaves through the campus. Students looked at each other, realizing the boy they had bullied was powerful beyond their comprehension. The staff realized they had been complicit in a charade. In the office, the principal looked like he was having a heart attack. You broadcast this? He whispered, horrified. The world needs to see, Hermann said. You judge people by their wallets, not their hearts. My son passed a test. He showed restraint. Ms. Meyer passed a test. She showed courage. You? Hermann stepped closer. You failed in every way a human being can fail. The exposure was total. There was no hiding, no spin that could save him now. The principal slumped into his chair, defeated. The cruelty he had dished out so casually had returned to crush him. It was the ultimate social experiment conclusion. He had bullied the wrong kid. He had underestimated the power of truth. The mask of the respectable educator was ripped away, revealing the monster underneath. Teresa watched, feeling a strange mix of emotions. She didn't enjoy his suffering, but she felt the immense relief of justice being served. The boy, the heir, stood tall, no longer the victim. He looked at the principal and said, I don't want a wing named after me. I just wanted to learn. It was a simple statement that highlighted the moral bankruptcy of the administrator. Hermann turned to principal one last time. You thought poverty was a weakness. You didn't realize that it takes more strength to be poor and decent than to be rich and cruel. The lesson was delivered. The judgment was final. Hermann walked out of the office, leading the group to the main assembly hall where the students and staff had gathered, drawn by the broadcast. He took the stage, the microphone feedback, screeching slightly before settling. The room was deadly silent. As the chairman of the board, Hermann began, I am making immediate changes. He pointed to the principal, who was cowering at the back of the hall. You are fired, effective immediately, not for administrative errors, but for moral bankruptcy. A gasp went through the crowd. Seeing the untouchable figurehead removed was a moment of destiny unfolding. The reign of terror was over. But a school needs a leader, Hermann continued. Someone who values integrity over tuition fees. Someone who teaches kindness, not just calculus. He turned to Teresa Meyer, who was standing in the wings, looking shocked. Ms. Meyer, please join me on stage. Teresa walked out, her legs shaking, as the students, the ones she had helped, the ones who silently respected her, began to clap. Teresa Meyer is the only person in this building who risked everything for what was right, Hermann declared. She is the new head of school. The applause grew louder, swelling into a standing ovation. Even the bullies, caught up in the moment, or perhaps fearing the billionaire, clapped. It was a vindicated moment of pure triumph. The outcast teacher was now the queen. Teresa took the microphone, tears streaming down her face. She didn't give a polished speech. She simply said, we are going to be better. We are going to be kind. It was a promise of a new era. The rich man culture was dead. The culture of unconditional kindness had begun. Hermann stood back, watching his handiwork. He had used his power not to dominate, but to elevate. He had turned the school drama into a lesson on humanity. The principal was escorted out by the very guards who used to obey his every command, a poetic end to his tyranny. The students looked at Hermann's son differently now, not with fear, but with respect and perhaps a bit of nervousness. But the boy just smiled at Teresa. They had won. The good guys had actually won. As the assembly dispersed, the atmosphere in the school had shifted. It felt lighter, freer. Hermann walked with Teresa to what was now her office. I hope I didn't overwhelm you, he chuckled. Teresa laughed, a sound of pure relief. You gave me a heart attack, Mr. Floyd. But, thank you. Please, call me Hermann, he said, his voice soft. And I have one more request. He looked at her, stripping away the billionaire persona, just a man looking at an extraordinary woman. I'd like to ask for a fresh start, not as a donor and a headmistress, but maybe dinner? To discuss the school's future, of course. Teresa blushed, realizing that the connection they had made over the broken-down car was real. It wasn't part of the act. I'd like that. She smiled. But you're driving the rusted sedan. It keeps you humble. Hermann laughed loudly. Deal. It was a heart-touching end to a chaotic journey. They watched Hermann's son playing soccer with some other kids in the yard. The barriers were breaking down. The social experiment had proven that while money can buy buildings, it cannot buy character. Teresa had proven that integrity is the ultimate wealth, the only currency that matters when the chips are down. The story of the poor student who was a billionaire heir became a legend at the school, a constant reminder never to judge a book by its cover. But the real legend was Teresa Meyer, the teacher who stood up to a giant and became one herself. Hermann took her hand, a gesture of partnership, and perhaps something more. Ready to change the world, Ms. Meyer? He asked. Teresa squeezed his hand back. Am ready, Hermann? The screen fades to black on their smiling faces, leaving the audience with a profound sense of justice and hope. True character had prevailed. We often forget that the way we treat the least among us is the truest reflection of who we are. Hermann and Teresa showed us that while gold may glitter, only integrity shines in the dark. If this story reminded you that kindness is a superpower, then you have found your home. Subscribe and join our community of changemakers who believe in the power of the human heart. Here is your mission for today. Like this video to vote for kindness over cruelty. Comment below I would have stood up if you would have defended the boy, or tell us a time you were judged unfairly. Let's support each other in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that justice still exists. And while you wait for our next adventure, know that our channel is a treasure chest of emotional journeys just like this one. Explore our older videos to discover other shocking reveals and heart-touching moments you might have missed. And to ensure you aren't left behind when the next story drops, activate the notification bell right now. You won't want to miss the emotions we have coming next.